What is an H-1B visa? The H-1B is probably the most popular employment authorized non-immigrant visa category. It's used specifically to bring professional level people into the United States. The basic requirement is a U.S. employer that has a job position they need to fill. That position must be one that has a minimum requirement of a bachelor's degree, a 4-year bachelor's degree or its equivalent, in a specialized or a specific particular field. Then you need a foreign worker who actually has a degree in that particular field that seeks to come into the United States. That's the basic requirement. And as far as that goes, that's fairly simple. The H-1B gets more complicated in a couple of different dimensions. One is that the employer is required to work, before applying with the Immigration Service, there are paperwork processes that have to be taken care of with the Department of Labor. And this is to ensure that U.S. employers are not going to undercut the salaries and wages of American workers by bringing in foreign workers and paying them very, very low wages. And so we have to file a labor condition application with the U.S. Department of Labor, basically certifying that these workers will be receiving the same salaries that a similarly qualified American worker would receive, salaries, working conditions, and the like. In addition to that, the H-1B is complicated. Probably the biggest issue we have to deal with is that there's only a limited number available every year, approximately 65,000 visas, which might seem like a lot. But this year, those visas became available on April 1st, and by April 5th, they were all gone. And that's all the visas that were available for the entire year. And to complicate matters a little bit further, those visas were for, those applications were for visas that would not actually become available until the beginning of the fiscal year on October 1st. So basically you have to, in order to get an H-1B, you have to apply 6 months ahead of time. And you have to file within a very narrow filing window. And you have to be one of the lucky ones that actually gets selected, because the Immigration Service typically will accept more applications than they have visas available. They do that to make sure that they can weed out ones that are ineligible and that they'll still be able to use all the available 65,000 visas. So the H-1B is fairly complicated, but assuming you're successful in getting the H approved, what does that give your worker? Well, it gives the worker authorization initially to come and work in the United States for the employer who sponsored them for a period of 3 years. And after that, the employer may extend the H-1B status for an additional 3. Total of 6 years that person can be here in the United States on H-1B status. By the end of the 6-year period, if they have not found a way to get a green card, which is another process we'll talk about, then they will need to leave the U.S. for at least 1 year. And after being out of the U.S. for 1 year, they can reapply and start the H-1B over again for a new 6-year period.